Today I'm going to take a look at some pocket knives that I picked up at the state surplus store in Austin, Texas. Uh, Everything on the table came out of a bin where the knives were all $3 each. So these are all knives that I picked up in one visit. Uh, and the way that works, if you're not familiar with the state surplus store, I have other videos on the channel that talk a little bit about things that I have acquired there. In Texas, when people surrender their knives to the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, at the airport, because usually it's because they've forgotten that they have a pocket knife. When they try to go through security and they're not allowed to proceed with the pocket knife, so they can, if they have time, they can mail it back to themselves. There are mailing facilities in most of the airports, but a lot of them just, either they don't have time or it's not worth the hassle to them, and they just surrender it to the TSA agents, and then it ends up in the state surplus store in Austin, the state capital, and they have things in priced out into different bins based on what an employee of the store thought as they were sorting through this massive pile of knives, deciding where to put them and how to price them. And those employees, some of them are pretty knowledgeable about knives, and some of them are less knowledgeable. And then also people sometimes just make mistakes. So once in a while, things end up getting sold for a lot less than it's worth, or they'll put something, in an expensive uh, price point that doesn't really warrant it. So you kind of have to know what you're looking at if you want to get a bargain. Um, but there are bargains to be had, and a couple of things that I always suggest if you're going to visit the state surplus store or any sort of similar facility where you're going to be handling a lot of used knives. I always recommend wearing cut-resistant gloves because some of the knives in those bins might have been left open or might have mechanisms that don't work very well, and so they're liable to fall open and just be loose blades in there. You don't want to cut yourself, and you also don't want to just get your hands all over filthy, dirty knives. Um, Everything here I have at least superficially wiped down with rubbing alcohol. Uh, and some of them really needed it. They were pretty gross. But, you know, for some of these, I'll disassemble them and clean them out real good and add some lubricant and make sure they're in top working order, sharpen them, and they'll either become part of my collection or I'll give them away to somebody or I will maybe resell them. So at the state surplus store, they have the cheapest bin is the $1 knives, and I have found a couple of things that were interesting in the $1 bin before, but uh, the $8 bin is pretty much where most of your sort of budget brand knives, things that well, respectable brands, but the less valuable models from those brands like Gerber and Kershaw and Schrade and um, CRKT. A lot of the knives that they make that are normally sold in the you know 25 to $55 price point end up being sold for $8. The stuff in the $3 bin is mostly junk. It's mostly sort of gas station, brands you've never heard of. Um, but there are some worthwhile things there. Usually, if you're willing to spend a little bit of time digging around. And these are all, as I said, everything on the table here came out of that $3 bin, and this was all in one visit to the state surplus store. So, um, Not surprisingly, a majority of the stuff in that $3 bin usually is imported from China, which in itself doesn't really mean anything anymore. You can get really cheap, low quality stuff that's made in China, or you can get pretty high quality stuff that's made in China these days. But in this case, a majority of the knives on the table actually are not Chinese production. A lot of these knives are actually U.S. made. So let's go through. I'll walk you through and show you what I found here. Let's start at the top. All right. This is a little Kershaw lockback with a sort of they call this a copolymer overmold. It's just kind of a rubbery stuff. And this is an AUS 6 blade. This is made in Japan, Kershaw, Japan. The model number here is the DW02. That stands for, what was the guy's name? Deli Wade, officer, who died in a hunting accident, and Kershaw made a series of knives to raise funds to give to his family. That was one of them. Those originally sold for, oh, well, don't have that information handy now, but they're, it's a Japanese Kershaw, and most of the Kershaws now are either made in the U.S. or in China. So the Japanese ones are less common to find these days, and it's good. It's got solid lockback, solid lockup. No blade play. Also from Japan, got a very traditional knife here. This is a Higonokami. This style of knife, you'll find them now in a couple different materials and a couple different sizes, but they're all basically the same style of construction. It's got a single piece of sheet metal that's been folded over to make the handle. So technically, this is an integral handle, although it's much cheaper construction than the integral knives that you'll see, made out of titanium or aluminum or something like that. In this case, it's steel. It's a steel handle, but some of the original ones were in brass, and they still make them in brass. And the blade is actually laminated steel. It's got a harder layer of carbon steel in the center, and then softer steels on the outer layers, which allows you to get a hard, sharp edge that will cut well, but it won't be so brittle because those outer layers will be protecting the blade from snapping. This is a friction folder. There's no locking mechanism on it. It stays open by the friction at the pivot and by your thumb being on this tab here, on this tab that you use to open it. It's a reverse tanto shape with some belly, right? It's a pretty efficient little cutter. These have been around since the late 19th century, the 1890s, and pretty much haven't changed really at all in the construction or the style. The materials have changed a little bit, but not all that much. I'm pretty sure that this is an authentic Nagao Higonokami knife. I don't know why somebody would make a knockoff, because the originals, the actual real deal, they're quite affordable. I mean, these brand new are, well under $20. But most of them that I've seen have kanji not only on the handle but also on the tang, or the blade. And I don't see any markings on the blade on this one, just on the handle, which is the only thing that makes me wonder if it's something a little off about it. But it's $3, and it's certainly a decent little friction folder and an interesting piece with some historical interest. All right. Also, while we're talking about historical things or vintage things, This is a USA-made Camp King from the 1950s. Um, this brand, Camp King, well, Camp King is sort of a line, um, and they were made uh, by Imperial, uh, and some of them were made by Imperial, but carried the Hammer brand, um, which is another company that Imperial acquired. Um, and this is one of those. This has the uh, Hammer brand logo, and it says it's kind of faded there, but it says USA on the side. Um, and They changed the design on this over the years. You can tell that this one's from the 50s because it still has the patent number on the can opener that disappeared a little later on, and the Hammer brand, they stopped stamping them Hammer by the 1960s. Um, and you can tell it's not one of the real old ones because it doesn't have real bolsters. The bolsters are just part of this sort of metal shell that they used. And this originally would have been painted black or had a black kind of enamel coat on the center area here. That has all worn away over time. And it looks like there's a pin missing here, but that's actually it's not part of the construction of the knife. That's where the bail attached. It had like a lanyard attachment uh, that was designed to be removable, and this one has been removed. Um, yeah, I mean it's not a particularly valuable item, but it's 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 an odd thing to come across when you're going through bin of stuff at the state surplus store. You find this vintage pocket knife from probably like 1957, 1958, something like that. Kind of cool. Um, and then everything else in this middle aisle, not counting this guy up here, but these six are all also U.S. made knives. Um, so we'll start with the top one here. This is Schrade. Schrade, is an old American cutlery company that and, moved almost all of its production, well, I think all of its production to offshore uh, facilities in recent years. And then just in the past year or two, they've started again in the US to make sort of their, I think they're calling it the Delta class. They're like premium knives. But so, if you've seen a Schrade in the past decade or so, chances are it was made in China. This one is a USA model. It's a little bit older. This is the SP2. Zytel handles. It's a lock back, right? Uh, Pretty basic. Full flat grind, drop point. This one's a little bit beat up, but it's still, should be fine. Sharpened up a little bit. And the blade is pretty solid. There's not much play there at all. It's good lockup. This is the Gerber US1, made in the USA. Okay. Again, good lockup. This has sort of a rubbery textured grip to it. And a little bit of some extra details there. It's got jimping, give you good grip. Okay. That would be a perfectly fine Cub Scout knife or maybe a keychain knife. Maybe a little bit big for most people's keychains, but the next two are both from Case Cutlery out of Pennsylvania. This one is the what do they call this one? I think it's called the Caliber, Case Caliber Small Lockback. This goes for about $30 new, and this one really hasn't been used much. So at $3, we're talking about 10% of the original cost. The next one is the Case Mini Blackhorn. Again, pretty good shape. Doesn't look like it got used much before it ended up going to the TSA. Um, American made. These retail for about 20 new, so not a real expensive knife, but a bargain at three. Um, the next one here is from Cutco. This is the model 1886. It's USA made. Um, it's 420 HC steel. Um, this one is fully serrated, which Cutco calls double D. That's their, I don't know why they call it double D, but that's what they call their serrated blades. I have previously found Cutco's in that $3 bin. Here's the same thing, but without serrations, right? This is straight edge. And here's another serrated one, but from a little bit different production period. You see the logo is a little different. And all the text is on one side of the blade instead of some on one side, some on the other, different color handle. This is a good solid lockback, right? 420 HE steel is nothing special, but it's fine. And Cutco knives can actually be really expensive. Some of them. This one is listed on their website for like $70, I think. So pretty good bargain at $3. One of the things I like about this, it's similar size to some of those other lockbacks we just looked at, except that the handle is a little beefier. It gives you more to hold on to. It's got several finger grooves in it. So for a small knife, you got really good control over it in the hand. Cutco, if you're not familiar with Cutco, they're one of those companies that they've got a weird sort of sales model. It's I don't know. I don't think it's quite as much of a pyramid scheme as some of the like health nutrition products and beauty products and stuff like that. But people recruit other people to become salesmen for Cutco, and then they go to door and sell knives and sell them to their friends and neighbors and stuff like that. I actually know somebody who did that for a while, and like in high school, and she's still under the impression that Cutco knives are just the best. So I guess their training is pretty effective at convincing people that their product is a good product. But yeah, $3, sure. And you don't have to talk to any salesmen or join any cults or recruit people for your pyramid scheme or anything like that. You just pick one of those up for $3 at the airport. Next one we've got here, Uzi brand. This is the mini Uzi. What can I tell you about this? This is, I think, designed by Fred Carter. There was a series of these. The little bit larger one was branded the Defender. I think this one is not the Mini Defender. I think it's just called the Mini Uzi lockback. Or no, Mini Uzi. It's not a lockback. It's a liner lock. But as you can see here, it's Cryo Edge high carbon stainless knife design, copyright 2004, made in the USA. It's a clip point design, kind of rubbery insert there, onlay, I guess. A little bit of wear on this one. It's definitely been carried. Doesn't look like it's been used a whole lot. These are no longer in production, but I poked around online to see what they're going for. Somebody's got the silver version of exactly the same thing listed right now on eBay for $76. Of course, just because somebody lists something for a price doesn't mean that they're going to get that price for it. But they've got 9 of them, and they're selling them. It's not an auction. They're just selling them at a fixed price. So they seem to think that that's what they'll get for them. I found some sort of archived listings for these at Knife Depot when they were new, which was quite a few years ago. and they were selling them for $47 at that time. So, pretty good shape. $3, American made. Uh, liner lock folding knife. This has got an interesting half stop too, like as if the kind of safety feature that you would find in a slip joint knife, but it's a lockback or it's a liner lock. Okay, moving on. So these are more typical of what you would find without kind of getting lucky if you were poking around in the $3 bin at the state surplus store. These are mostly brands that I was not familiar with at all, except for Camillus, of course. Although the brand history of Camillus is interesting and strange and long, and today's Camillus doesn't really bear much relationship to the Camillus of old. But yeah, I think all of these are Chinese, and but they're all fine. This one has no branding on it at all. It just says stainless China. And I think the reason I picked it up was because I thought it was interesting that it had this button to actuate the liner lock. So instead of, putting your finger in the path of the blade to get to the liner lock, you have this button on the sort of bolster area of the knife that you can use to disengage the lock. Lockup on it's fine. I have no idea what kind of steel it is. Stainless, evidently. That doesn't really mean much. But yeah, I mean, okay. This one is Schwarzwolf, I think is how you might pronounce that. I think that means black wolf. And yeah, I Googled this company. It says rostfree, which is rust-free, stainless, right? So they're not expensive. They're, it looks like their market is mainly in Europe, although I think they're made in China. But the brand seems to be mostly marketed in Europe. Yeah, it's just a regular little lockback with stainless steel handles. Construction on it seems fine. Sturdy enough. Little bit of blade play there, side to side. Yeah. Yeah. Had I the opportunity to do it over, I might have passed on this one. But, I'm only out $3, so not the end of the world. Camillus. Okay, so Camillus, I don't think I will take the time in this video to go through the brand history of Camillus, but it's a venerable old company. Made knives in the U.S., made knives for military use, had been around forever. The brand now has been, sold and resold, and they are now mostly kind of budget knives. It says titanium on the blade there. That is not a blade made out of titanium. I think it might have some kind of titanium coating on it, or maybe they're just writing titanium on stuff for fun now. I don't know, but yeah, it's the Camilla stuff is fine. There's some of it's better than others, but this one good lockup, lightweight. It's a liner lock. So this should be a pretty efficient cutter. It's a full flat grind. Nothing wrong with it. Okay. This is the only assisted opening knife in this batch. This is from Steel Warrior. Again, that's a brand I'm not really familiar with. Real shiny mirror polish on this stainless steel handle. And it says 440 stainless. Of course, that doesn't really mean much because there's a big difference between 440A, 440B, and 440C in terms of the properties of the steel. And then, of course, the heat treat is going to make a big difference too on the quality of it. But it's, 440, generally speaking, is a preferable steel to like 420 or to something like 8CR or, one of the other budget alloys. So probably take an edge fine. It as I said, it is a assisted opener, um, and good general purpose drop point, almost spear point blade there. Uh, Perfectly fine little carry knife with a single position pocket clip and a lanyard hole. Um, this thing, some kind of weird little keychain knife with a brass bolster. This also says 440, 440A in this case. Wooden handle scales and a little uh, carabiner clip on the back here. Liner lock. Yeah, keychain thing, kind of cute. Um, all right, so this guy is interesting. So this is the key port. This is the knife module from Klecker Knives that is for their key port system. Um, so Glenn Klecker uh, is an interesting knife maker. Came up with all kinds of crazy gadgets um, and these modular system things, right? They were sort of interchangeable. This is intended to be an accessory for something called the keyport pivot, which was a little thing where you could sort of take your keys and screw them into a little um, housing so that your keys would open out of it like blades from a Swiss Army knife. But then in addition to your keys, you could put all these other gadgets in there that he had. He had a whole line of 20 or 30 different gadgets, tweezers and pliers and a straight razor and flashlight module and little ruler and probably a nail file. And now this one isn't intended to, it's not just the blade that fits into that other housing. This is intended to like snap into the side of that pivot um, and expand it a little bit, giving it one more slot, and then filling that slot with this knife. Klecker also developed a bunch of like iPhone accessories, really cool concept iPhone cases that had little slots in them where you could slide these little extra tools, kind of turn your iPhone case into a multi-tool. Um, but I guess it didn't take off, and they're still around. I think you can still get new old stock ones, but they're for older model iPhones. So if for some reason you need a multi-tool case for your iPhone 7 or something, you could probably pull that off. Um, the keyport line uh, originally it was being sold under the Klecker Knives brand, and it looks like they're still available. I'm seeing new products listed with Keyport as the brand name, and they look like they'd be compatible with this, but it doesn't have Klecker branding on it anywhere. So I guess maybe he sold that patent or sold the rights to the product or something like that, and somebody else is making it now. I'm not sure if it's back compatible with the original Klecker stuff, but even without any of those other pieces, this is just a little very thin pocket knife, a little slip joint knife. Um, so that's what that is. Got a couple of the CRKT, Columbia River Knife and Tool knives here. These are both made in Taiwan. Most CRKTs these days are made in China. It's got a real sharp little, um, I guess technically it's a drop point, but it's almost a straight back, straight spine on this blade here. Um, and again, good lockup, nice small little knife with a hole here so you could maybe put it on a keychain. Um, and then this one, this is the 6601 Ace Pike's Peak. This has aluminum skeletonized handles. It's a liner lock. I'm pretty sure this is AUS 6. It doesn't say, but I believe that's what it is. And this is a clip point. This is the earlier version. They made another one that was a drop point with a bead blast finish that was maybe a little more common than this. Um, but yeah, good solid little, all metal knife. Lansky. Um, Lansky is famous for making sharpening tools, tools for sharpening your knives. Um, this is just their basic little lockback. It's got a real dramatic, almost an upswept um, blade shape there. A lot of belly. Um, this is, I'm pretty sure this is 420 steel. Uh, I could be wrong about that. But it's a lockback. These are not expensive, even new, but so several multiples of what I paid for it at $3. It's got a nice kind of grippy, kind of rubbery texture to it. Pretty good knife that, it's exactly the kind of thing I would want to be carrying if I forgot that I had a knife and ended up at the airport, because, you could part ways with this without feeling too bad about it. But it would still be useful if you had it with you and needed to do any kind of cutting tasks up until the last minute there. Um, yep. This one, uh, it's another one that has a carabiner clip on it. Um, Swiss Force. Uh, Sounded vaguely familiar to me. I think I might have been confusing it with like Swiss Tech, one of those other companies. Um, Again, this is sort of a similar blade shape. This, it's I guess technically is, we would call this a clip point, but it's a curved clip point, so it's kind of dramatic. Uh, some belly there. Don't know what kind of steel it is. It's fine. No lock on this. This is just a slip joint knife. Um, eh, you know, Nothing special, but perfectly reasonable for $3. Okay, and then this is the one that if you're a knife person, you've probably been curious about this. It's got the butterfly logo on it. It says Benchmade. It is not a Benchmade. This is a knockoff. Um, yeah, if you Google this model number, I guess is it supposed to be A1102. You will find this knife, but it'll come up on really sketchy websites that are not retailers that are actually authorized Benchmade uh, retailers. And they do make some claims about like what kind of steel it is and stuff, but who cares? Because it's obviously fake. So why would we believe what they say about the alloy if they're saying something that's obviously false about the provenance of it? Yeah, it says Benchmade USA. It is not. uh, yeah, but it's frame lock, skeletonized, lightweight. Lockup on it is fine. And kind of almost a spear point shape to it. Um, Hollow grind. Yeah, kind of a curiosity. Fake Benchmade. All right. Well, that's what you can get for $3. Um, Hope you found that entertaining. We'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.